Hey everyone, Ranger Danger here, coming at you from the Woodlands. Today's mission is to prove that there is such a thing as a free lunch. I will be foraging not a mile away from my house in my local woodlands, picking up what I can find, giving you hints and tips on foraging itself and some plants that you can pick up which are readily available in woodlands near you. Later on I'll be cooking it and having it for a nice dinner, and you get to enjoy that. Here we go guys, enjoy. Bear in mind that it is illegal to trap here in the UK, so there will be no meat. Unfortunately, it's a veggie dish only. But beggars can't be choosers when there's a food scarcity in a survival situation. So hopefully you guys will learn something. Stay tuned, like and subscribe if you're interested. So we'll begin with our first plant, Allium ursinum, which is the wild ramsons, or wild garlic as it's known. The plant itself is actually related to the onion plant, more so than the garlic, so don't let the name fool you. But the leaves, stems, seeds and flower heads can be eaten. They have a strong garlic taste, which if you crush, you can get straight away. Very good for bulking up soups, and yeah, good for colds as well. So up next is Urtica dioica, or the common stinging nettle. Very, very common, in fact, in most British woodlands. And what we want from these is to pinch out the tips and get the young fresh nettles.
An important feature to note on the stinging nettles is that they are covered in tiny microscopic hairs which inject you with a histamine which causes rashes and swelling and itchiness, so it's probably best to wear protective gloves when handling this plant.
So up next, again, another very common UK woodland plant, we have the blackberry bush or bramble bush, Rubus fruticosus. And what we're looking for on these are these freshly developed shoots at the bud nodes. Another little safety warning, this plant is equipped with very, very sharp, very cuddly thorns. So you might want to wear gloves when foraging around here, or just be a little bit more careful, because they will try and hug you. So a quick yet important tip when it comes to foraging. So here we have Gallium aperine, or more commonly known as goosegrass or cleavers. Yes, they are edible. However, note the terrain that I'm standing in. So it's always good to be aware of where you're foraging. I'm currently standing in the middle of a public footpath. Quite commonly or not, people will be walking dogs through here. So one of the main issues that I will be looking out for is things such as dog urine or feces that may be exposed to the food that I'm about to pick. So the same can be said when foraging from roadsides, the issue of car pollution, and also when you're foraging around any potential sites that may be used for disposal of chemicals or human waste. Always pick higher than your knee or dog height, think big dog, and yeah, never pick from ground level unless you know it's safe. Sometimes when you're out in the woodlands, you come across anomalies in the plant life. Something that doesn't belong, or something that stands out, or something that altogether shouldn't be there in the first place. For example, I have one here. Mahonia cross media. The leaves have a very similar appearance to our native hollybush. However, this is a non-native hybrid from North America. Just because it is non-native, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its culinary uses. The common name for the Mahonia is the Oregon grape tree. This is because later on in the season, these flowers will develop into large clusters of blue berries. With a single seed and a very sharp taste, they are used to make jams. The flowers themselves can also be used to flavour lemonades or make sorbets. This is where it helps to have an expanded knowledge of plants, especially when foraging. Don't just look at native foods, look at foods from all around the world, because you never know what you might bump into when you're out there. So I've just found a nice little natural protein score in the form of these fun guys. Wood ears or jelly ears, Auricularia auricala judea. The Judea is in reference to Judas Iscariot, who supposedly hung himself on an elder tree after the betrayal of Christ. The elder, or Sambucus nigra, being the main host of this satrophytic fungus. Satrophytic meaning it feeds on dead or decaying organic matter within the host. It can also be found on beech and cherry laurel.
Jelly ears can't be eaten raw, However, they can be picked and then dehydrated and later used in stocks and soups.
Next on the menu, Primula vulgaris, or primrose, or oxlip, or cow's lip. They come by many names, all similar related species, but all edible. Not my favourite wildflower, I have to say. The leaves themselves, peppery, very, very chemically. Better to boil than to eat raw, but can be eaten raw. Just wouldn't recommend. So it's been about 2 hours of foraging now. I decided this would be the final ingredient for today's free meal. Aliaria petiolata, or Jack by the hedge, or more commonly known as garlic and mustard, because when you crush the leaf, it smells identical to both garlic and mustard. Very nice addition to this evening's dinner. And of course, no great meal is complete without something to wash it down. So I'm going to show you how to turn this and this sycamore tree,
Acer pseudoplatanus,
into a refreshing springtime drink. So before we tap a tree, we have to first identify the tree, which, as you can imagine, this time of year, late winter into early spring, is pretty difficult. There's not a lot going on up there. So here's a little hint on identifying trees during the winter.
Sometimes the bark alone is enough to give a good identification of what tree you're looking at. You can also use buds. Here's another little tip.
Examine the leaf litter from last year's fallen leaves around the base of the tree. See if you can identify the dominant species present on the ground. For example, here we have a sycamore leaf, identified easily by its 5 lobes. There's another one here, another one there, and some more over here. So it's fair to say that this tree is most likely a sycamore tree.
You begin by boring a hole into the tree at an upward angle, approximately 1.5 to 1 3/4 inch deep, using the auger. Once you've finished boring the hole, remove the auger and the tree should start exuding a clear liquid. This is the sap that you'll be harvesting for your drink.
Next up, we need to make a spile, or spout. This is used to direct the sap flow from the augered hole in the tree into a container or vessel at the end of the spile. This container will then house all the liquid that is collected from the tree.
The spile I'm using here is a simple stick with a tapered end, which is used to direct the flow of the sap into the container. Here's the container approximately 2 hours later.
That's not too bad. It's enough for a drink in a survival situation. Next up, we're going to remove the spile and then re-plug the hole that we've bored. To do this, take a piece of live green wood, plug it in the hole and push it as far in as it will go. Once the bung is in, you then take a saw and just remove the excess of the bung. That's it.
Now it's time to start the fire on which we're going to cook on. To do this, I'm going to use a friction fire bow drill.
So the fire's all up and running, we're just waiting for the embers to die down a little bit so we can start cooking. That's what we got. So we've got a good substantial meal of everything we foraged today. Got a little bit of butter in which we're gonna, yes, it's not free, but normally I would use animal fat or something, but can't hunt, etc, etc. But nice little bit of butter in which we're gonna saute the greens in. Obviously gonna cook the mushrooms first, give them a bit more time before we add the greens. A little bit of salt and pepper to taste. I'll give it a bit of a crush, but I probably won't use much of that. And of course, a nice little bit of birch water to wash it down. And there we have it, proof that there is such a thing as a free meal. Bon appetit.